Hey, hey, hey. I am so beyond honored that you are here with me, spending this time with me. I know that time is our most valuable resource and we can't duplicate it, right? Once it's gone, it's gone. And so, with that, I just want you to take like a deep breath in with me and just feel the love that I have for you and the gratitude for you taking time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. Because, 5 years ago, if you had told me that I would be comfortable sharing with people anything, I wouldn't have believed you. And so, if that's something that's maybe a little bit of a dream of yours, I wouldn't have even said it was a dream of mine at that point, to be perfectly honest. But if that is something that's in your heart, just know that you will get there. And just know that if you have a feeling in your heart of you are made for more, thank you, Rachel, for that. Trust it, know it. There might be parts of your dream that you are like, I don't know how, but I want something like this in my life, whatever that is, whether that's travel, whether that's money, like we're going to talk about today. So obviously it's money. uh, Living a certain place, having a certain career or job or freedom or flexibility, choice. Choice is really where it's at. Just know that I want you to not feel guilty for wanting more. And so I'm going to share my screen with you with a little slideshow that I've made for you. Hopefully it'll work. Oh, and I'm already on the second page. So let's see. Here we go. So we are manifesting your wealth, your inner wealth. All of your external wealth comes from your inner wealth. And I'm going to explain what that means throughout this to the best of my ability so you can truly understand, right? So I want to tell you a little bit about me. All of this came from hitting my absolute rock bottom, felt like my absolute rock bottom 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And I was in a rough place, guys, and I had experienced a lot of things in my 20s that I don't wish upon many people. Uh, I had tried to commit suicide when I was 16. I had battled with depression and anxiety most of my life. I had had many pregnancies, a few miscarriages in there. I had seen death. I had seen cancer. I had moved away from my family. I had seen so many things and been through so many things. And I felt like ridiculous for hitting rock bottom at that part of my life because I had seen all of these things and gotten through all of these things already. I felt like I was a warrior. I had been through all of this and I was still smiling on the other side of all of that. And then I hit rock bottom, and that was really, really hard. So just know if that's the place you're in, I feel you. I love you. It's okay. It's going to get better. Decide it's going to get better. It does get better. I have been in that low spot, crying on my kitchen floor on a regular basis, and then sucking it all together when my children would walk into the kitchen. I have been there. So I just want that to be really something that you see of, the girl you see on the other side today wasn't that girl, and you can grow a lot in a short amount of time. So 2 years ago, pretty much this weekend, actually, I was just thinking about that this morning. 2 years ago, I took my first money course, and I just knew I had been looking into law of attraction and learning about those things. Abraham Hicks was on my radar. Uh, the Secret was on my radar, even though I had never really watched it. I knew the premise of it. It was really fascinating to me. And I decided I was going to do my first money course as a participant and just learn about all of this abundance that they're talking about, this limitless abundance that so many people that I was coming across were talking about. And I just didn't really see how that was real for me. And so I decided right then that I was going to dig in deep. We were camping in Good Spirit, which, if you're from Saskatchewan, you know how beautiful of a place that was. And so that will hold a special memory for me always, because it was really like an inflection point in my life, a moment of realizing that I could bring wealth and abundance into my world. That being said, it took me longer than a weekend to go through all of that. That's for dang sure. But we're going to start looking into some of those things, but through this workshop right here. But I want you to like think about how I was unpacking years of conditioning, and I dived into other courses and so many books and so much inner soul searching. I was like reflecting back on my life and how I would have wealthy times where there was a lot of money in the bank, and then zero times, and then wealthy times, and then zero times. And I started to see this pattern that was continuing on in my life. And I didn't like the pattern. I didn't like the feeling of being in zero. And so I really dove into that for myself and what that all looked like. And everybody has their own journey with that. But I encourage you to look into that for your own self. And I'll give you some steps on that today. I want you to know that I made a decision to change, not for just me, but for my family. I wanted my kids to grow up, my family members, extended family members. My little brother would always come to mind. My sister would come to mind. So many people would come to mind of, I wanted to show them that everything is limitless and that you truly, truly can have everything that your heart desires, because we all have different heart desires. And that was a big decision for me. And I quit many times after I made that decision. Mentally, I quit because I had to check out. I felt like I had to check out. So if you've done that before, know that that's okay too. The important part is that you don't stop. You're never going to stop. Actually, once you start to like kind of get into these sorts of things, you realize that once you know something, you can't unknow it. And so once you know there's limitless potential for you out there, you can't unknow that. You can pretend for a little bit, but it creeps back up. And I just want to impress upon you that if I can do it, I promise you can do it too. I had made so many mistakes in my life with money, with relationships, with like just so many things. And so I want you to know there's nothing special over here other than the determination to figure it out, and that I was not going to quit, and that I was always going to keep investing in myself, which was scary in the beginning, to be honest. Let's just side note that for a second. The first time I invested in myself, it was like, oh, I'm not sure I should do this. And then it was like, oh yeah, I can see the results coming from investing in myself. And so also know that if that's the space you're in, that you've never invested a large amount of money in yourself, even a small amount of money. I think my first money course was $750 American. So it was about $1,000 Canadian. And it's just kind of grown from there on what I'll invest in myself, because I know that as I grow, I also know that money is just energy out there. Like, what is money anyways, right? And so the more I put weight and value on money, the less I can bring into my life, right? So just know that if I can do it, you can do it too. And I'll give you some steps today. So if I said to you, what do your finances look like? What would you look like? Would you be this or this? Which gal would you be? Would you be like, oh, I just like, this is what I would do all the time, actually. I would put my hands like this when I was looking at my books, or when I was like thinking, which side note, funny little side note, is that I thought I should be an accountant when I grew up, and I don't particularly like numbers. So if you're somebody that doesn't like numbers, don't let that stop you. I took accounting for a year, then decided that wasn't the course for me. So glad that I went through that, and so glad that I just accepted that that wasn't my course. I want this to hit home for you today, though. You don't have to be this girl. You can truly be this girl, happy, smiling. And the only difference between poor people and rich people, and whatever that definition means to you, because that means something different for everybody. Just like success, it is different for all of us, but it's their mindset. That is the only difference. You might look at rich people and see that they're like farther along their way because they have money in the bank or they can buy certain things. But the reason they got there is because of their mindset. Rich people will lose their money if they don't have a strong mindset. And so if they're rich right now and they have been for a year, but they're not growing, they still have room to work on their mindset too. And so today is not just about having $0 in the bank account. You could have 100 grand in the bank account. If that isn't escalating for you, you have money mindset to work on. New level, new devil. That is how it works. So guess what? One of the things that you can actually control in your life, because there's not much you can actually control, even if you try to control it all. And most of us do. I try to control so many things. And once I surrender to the control is when things come about. But it is your mindset that allows you to grow. You can control your mindset. Yes, negative thoughts will creep in. Yes, negative bills will creep in. Yes, any type of negativity will come in and come up for you. But when you have a strong mindset, I want you to think about having this like really strong biceps. When you have grown your mindset, it doesn't matter what obstacle comes in your way, you are focused on the solution. You don't get hung up by the obstacle when you have a really strong mindset. And your wealth will only grow the amount that you grow. This was a hard one for me to learn with money for sure, because I would manifest like large sums of money, like pretty good sums of money. And then I would not knowingly manifest them all leaving. And I had to grow deeper within myself to be able to then hold on to that money because I want money in the bank account, not just coming in and out, which it always will. Side note, don't think that it won't. Hoarding is a thing. If you are hoarding money, that's just as detrimental to you as spending it. Some of us will be hoarders. Some of us will be overspenders. That's just the way we're made. But I want you to recognize which one you are there. Hoarder, spender. I'm a hoarder. I'm definitely a hoarder. I've always been a hoarder. When I would get beautiful bath products for Christmas, I would hoard them. And next Christmas, I would still have them because I would use so little of them, because I was like, no, must save the beautiful, expensive bath products. So just know you need to grow your mindset just like you grow a bicep or any other, I don't know, a career that you're looking into. You have to put in time, right? Like if you are working at a job that you needed a degree or a diploma for, and you did actually, all of you needed a high school diploma for whatever you're doing, chances are, you had to work at getting that. You had to grow yourself to get that. And that is the exact same as this. So next, I want to dive into Manifestation 101. Manifestation 101, Law of Attraction 101. You could call it many different things, but what you focus on is what expands. I want you to read that and hear that. What you focus on expands. So I had read this, heard this a jillion times. And I was like, yeah, I'm focusing on what I want. I'm visualizing into what I want. I'm thinking about the good things. But predominantly throughout my day, I was actually worried about how I was going to pay the bills or how I was going to make things work. Or as an entrepreneur, we go through this massively. What is going to bring in the next income? Because we're never guaranteed. We don't have a regular paycheck that we pull from, right? That's what I was focusing on, even though I was visualizing and writing affirmations in the morning and thinking about all of these great things that I wanted to bring in my life. And then I would stop, to be honest, writing some of those things out because I was like, oh, this isn't working anyways. I've been doing this for months. Nothing's happening. And I would get so frustrated. Frustrated is what you're focusing on. So you need to set it. You need to set the intention of what you want in your life, and then you need to forget it for that day. Set it every morning. And then forget about it. Carry on with your day, doing things that bring you joy, doing things that bring you happiness, doing things that raise your vibration. This is so important. And so often we get into this place, and it's a society thing, to be perfectly honest. And there's no fault to it because it came from a good place. It came from a good intention. But you have to just work harder. Want more? Work harder. Hustle more. Do more. Be more. These are all of the pieces that I struggled with so much, because it was like, when you start a business, they tell you you're going to have to work really hard. You're going to have to do a lot of things. And yes, you learn a lot of things when you're starting a new business. But if you don't go in with the mindset of it's going to be hard, and I'm going to have to work my butt off for it, and I'm going to have to put in late nights, and I'm going to have to probably work some weekends, or I'm going to have to get up early, or I'm going to have to carve out all of this time, when actually if you set it and forget it every morning, carry on with your day, take action steps. You have to take inspired action steps, but you have to just release it. You can't grip onto it. I was a pro gripper. Okay, well, I manifested this thing. For example, moving to Okotoks, I manifested that so fast. I manifested it. We were here in I think it was 26 days or something like that, something crazy. From the time we made the decision to the time our family of 5 was living here, which for those of you that aren't familiar is a 9-hour drive away in a place I didn't know anybody. We shut down our corporation. We sold vehicles. We got our house up for sale. We got a tenant in our house. We did all of these things in this very short amount of time. So I manifested that. And I know I did. And that was really cool because I knew I was powerful enough with my mind to manifest that. But then when I would go to manifest amounts of money, my money mindset wasn't there yet. I actually didn't believe that I could do the same thing with money. And belief is the biggest part. So when you set it, believe it, forget it. I call it DFT. Dream it, feel it, trust it. And then I should add an L in there, DFTL. Let it go. You have to let it go. We fixate on things way too much. That is the biggest mistake we all make when it comes to the law of attraction or manifestation or bringing our dreams to life, is gripping on. So I want you to think about too, it's kind of like riding a bike. And I'm using this analogy because it's an easy one that will stick in your mind. It will anchor in. When you're riding a bike, you are focused on where you're going. If you just watch that front tire or your handlebars, you'll probably crash. You won't be able to see where you're going if you have a blinder in front of you and you're just watching what's in front of you all of the time. You have to take that vision out, right? Hawk's eye view, I call it all the time. Take the 30,000 foot view. What do you actually want in your life? Keep that view in the forefront of your mind. That's what's important, instead of worrying about the day-to-day pieces as much as we do. We still have to take inspired action, absolutely, but you often fixate on those little pieces, right? I also want you to think, second analogy with the bike, think about or even driving a car. When you're driving a car, if you focus on the curb because you don't want to hit the curb, 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 shit, I hit the curb. Because you're staring at the curb and all you're thinking about is how you don't want to hit the curb, which is what you're focusing on. Don't hit the curb, which is actually hit the curb. That's the piece that's expanding, right? So just keep that in the forefront of your mind. I want to get super real with you for a moment here. Real talk is the only place that really helped me grow. Lots of mentors that I worked with were amazing, but they were kind of sugar coaters. They would so kindly give me some steps or give me some guidance. and help me along my way, but they would like say it in this really nice, sweet way that it just like wasn't hitting home for me. And so I shifted my business, I don't know, probably 6 months ago, maybe even longer, 9 months ago, because I found myself doing the same thing. I just wanted to be nice to my clients and my people, and I want them to like me because I'm a people pleaser. That's who I am. I love inspiring people. I love making people feel good. I don't want to make anybody feel crappy. But real talk is the only way you're going to grow. That is going to get you there 1,000 times faster. And so I have some real talk here for you. I want you to think about the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? You've probably heard that before. But where in your life, when it comes to money, are you doing that? I really want you to think about it. Message me. Let me know. I love hearing stories like this. When we have big aha moments, I love those. I've had so many of those over the last couple of years. And it would be like, oh, that makes sense. 2 years ago, I heard that, but it didn't really sink in. It only sinks in when we're ready for it. Give yourself some grace. Love on yourself. There's your lovey talk for you, the sugar coating of it. But I really want you to think about this. If you aren't going to make a change, what is going to change? And sometimes it has to be a pretty big change up here, not even out there. Our internal world is what creates our external world. So if your finances are a little bit right now, inside here is a little too. When everything, I love this, if you've known me for a while, come back to one, when we're all aligned within ourselves, our external world has no choice but to mirror that. And so when I hear people talking about money issues, and that's why I'm doing this today, to be perfectly honest, I've had this pop up so many times over the last few weeks, years for sure, but over the last few weeks, so many clients, so many friends, so many people that I'm randomly running into, like the lady at Chapters the other day when I was buying a book, it comes up all the time. Money and the lack of money. Money and the mindset around money is what it boils down to. Another real hard truth for you, your past experience with anything in your life, including money, influences you more than anything else you are doing today. So if you are going to decide tomorrow, I'm going to make more money, that's awesome. That's super awesome. All of your past experiences are going to come up about why that won't work, how you can't bring in more money, all of these things. Last summer was my coolest money manifestation piece, my first coolest money manifestation piece. I've had quite a few over the last while, but I decided that I was going to bring in $7,000 in 7 days, actually in 5 days, but 7 and 7 sounded good. And so I just focused on getting really excited about it. And it happened. And I was like, oh, I can do this all the time. Couldn't do it all the time because then I had an expectation. Even though I had a positive experience with it, doing it, all of my beliefs leading up to that point started pulling in at that point. Yeah, you did it once, but you only did it once. You can't do it again. And so that's where I really encourage you to like really dig in for yourself of what those belief systems are. We have to be willing to take full responsibility for ourselves and for our beliefs. And so this poor little guy on the slide here, all of those hands are probably you. All the things you're telling yourself, yeah, but you were broke when you did this. I was just talking to a friend yesterday about this, and she has some big dreams for a really cool project. Really cool. And she has a job, a job, that gives her a regular income. And she doesn't want to leave that job because she knows what it feels like to not have income. And she knows what it feels like for it to be hard to put money on the table, essentially, which is food on the table. Get it. I've been there. I totally get it. But sometimes we have to follow the heart nudges. And that's where the abundance comes from. So for the first part of my business, I was really focused on, I wanted to help everybody. Everybody. I wanted my pricing to be so low so it was available to everybody in the world. It doesn't work that way. I give out a ton of free content, like you're watching here. I give out a ton of content on my website. I give out a ton of content on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of those things. You can take them all. They're all free. They're all there for you because I want to give them to you. But for people to have bigger transformations, they have to invest in themselves. And usually that comes down to money, because that's what we value the most in our life. Okay? I want you to think about how much you value money in your life. Often coming like from the place of taking full responsibility, it gets a little bit uncomfortable. And then we're like, no, I'm not going to dive deeper into this because it's not that comfortable. I don't like thinking about bad decisions I've made in the past, or frivolous spending I've done, or traveling I shouldn't have done, or bought that purse I shouldn't have, whatever that looks like for you, right? But I promise you it's so worth it. Just dig in. And I want you to remember too that healing doesn't have to be hard, right? Like I do a lot of, well, basically all I do with people is inner healing. And we come in with this expectation that there's going to be all these tears and it's going to be terrible and it's going to be so heavy and so awful to get through. And I'm not going to lie, there's some moments that feel like that, but it's not always like that. Sometimes we can look at tears as like a beautiful release. We're finally letting it go. We're finally putting it in the past. I had to divorce myself over and over and over because I had this image of who I was. And I also had this like future vision of who I wanted to be, but I was gripping again so hard to that past version of myself. Taking responsibility for your beliefs and judgments gives you the power to change them. Until we take responsibility for them, we can't change them because we're not honoring that they're even a part of us. Forgiveness is the biggest key. Write out your story with money. Give yourself a lot of space to do this. Give yourself, an hour or two or 30-minute increments, whatever that looks like for you, whatever feels good to you. Try to do it without distractions, but if you have littles around, sometimes we have to do things with distractions. It's just a way of life. I know my youngest is now 5 and life is a lot different than it was a few years ago when I had toddlers at home. But this is when I started the process, was with toddlers, right? And I want you to flow all of it out. Let it all flow on pages. If you are a voice person, voice it out, but take bullet notes. You need to be able to see some of these things because you're going to come back to it. And, I've done this many, many times, and sometimes it will be like a page or two, and then sometimes it will be multiple pages. Sometimes my writing gets huge and sloppy and takes up so much space. If you're a computer person or a phone person, do it in your notes. Do it on your laptop, whatever that looks like. But I want you to start to recognize what parts of your money story you feel emotion around. So was there some crappy decisions you made with money? Was there, think back to with your family. What was money like with your family when you were growing up? Because chances are you are duplicating that in your life. And chances are at some point in your family's history, which is shared through beliefs, the way they talk with us or talk around us, or it comes genetically as well down to us, there has been hardship in your family. If you are wanting more money in your life and you don't have it, there's something there and you need to find it. And it's okay. It's easy. Just tell yourself it's going to be easy to find these things. It's going to be easy for them to come through. And so you'll have the most random money memories come up. One of them for me is that my mom would make us cookies instead of buying store-bought cookies because it was cheaper. I remember my parents saying we couldn't do something because we didn't have the money. I remember in junior high, my mom and dad telling me I could go on one ski trip. There was 2 ski trips in junior high and I was allowed to go on one of them because that's all we could afford. And I don't remember being resentful by any means at that time. It was like, okay, that makes sense. That's fair. But that's a money memory for me, is that there's never enough. So I want you to really put that out for yourself and then find where the emotion sits in it. That is your block. You gotta clean up the shitty emotions around money. You have to. You're not going to grow if you don't clean it up, if you don't take responsibility and then decide that you're going to clean it up. And I'm going to give you a tool on the next slide to do that with. Emotional baggage is like, when we have emotional baggage around money, it's like trying to build a mansion on a really rotten, rundown shack. Okay. Get Rich Lucky Bitch. She talks about this, and it really hit home for me because we bought a very dilapidated house a few years ago, very dilapidated, like basement walls crumbling in on a 1.5 story. And so we thought when we bought it, we were going to have to lift it to re-pour everything, right? And we ended up not having to, and that was great. Manifested that too. But if we had just renovated around all of those crumbling, in a year or two, it would have crumbled more. We could have put built walls in front of the crumbling cement walls. We could have built wood walls or steel walls in front of them. And that would have been fine for a time. And we could have drywalled and made it all look so pretty. But at some point, things will shift, just like they will in your life. And it would have come crumbling down in not a good way, right? So look at your emotional baggage like that, if that's easier for you as a tangible. And I want you to realize how these stories influence your money beliefs so much so. And so if we want to bring wealth into our lives, then you have to. One of the other reasons that I'm doing this workshop is that a few months ago, I had my first 20K month. And that was amazing. Something that I've had on my dream board, my vision board. I've written in affirmations thousands of times over the last 4 or 5 years, but I always looked at it like a certain way of how it was going to come into my life. And so when it came into my life, I was like, well, that wasn't the way I pictured it. So must not be right. And then the next month I hit 20K again, working through a lot of my own mind blocks again. But once you've done it and worked through that baggage, it's a lot easier to recognize when it's popping up for you and be like, oh, that's just an old belief. Let's just put that one down. Another example is we went to a really nice Airbnb a couple of months ago at beginning of summer. And it was lovely and it was gorgeous. But when we first got there, and I felt so good booking it and packing up for it and knowing I was taking my family on this. And it was something we've wanted to do for a long time. And I had seen this really fancy place a year ago probably, but I was like, oh, someday we'll be able to afford that place. Anyway, we end up going. And I wake up the morning after we arrived feeling crappy, feeling like not worthy of this place, feeling like, well, that's great. That happened 1 month, but I'm not going to be able to do it again. That's just a belief. That's a crappy belief. And so I had to sit and honor those feelings. I had to work through the emotional baggage along with it. Then I had to let it go. That's not serving me to hold on to that. I could have ruined the whole weekend of just like being, I'm never going to make that money again. I should have saved this money. I should have put it towards this. I should have, put into my child's RESP or whatever that is for you. You can do it again and again and again, but you have to believe it. Forgiveness is the key on this. So I had to forgive myself for that emotional baggage. So I want you to, if you're on your phone, give this a screenshot. If you're on your laptop, maybe take a shot of this. For each item on your list that you have a negative emotion to, I want you to say out loud, would be awesome, but I know some of you will be shy about that, and that's fine. I see you. I forgive you. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. This is not original, by the way. It's a Hawaiian piece. I've heard it many, many times. And so I was like, I have to share this piece with them because this has been something that's so simple, but has helped me so much. And so even that morning, waking up in this beautiful Airbnb, I see you and feeling crummy, right? I see you. I honor you. I forgive you. Thank you. I'm sorry. And I love you. Repeat after me. The more I forgive, the more I receive. So put your hand on your heart. Breathe into it. the more I forgive, the more I receive. Because if you aren't open to receiving, if you aren't willing to forgive the past, you're not going to receive it. It's not going to, it might even come to you and you might not even see it. You won't recognize the opportunity because you're so stuck in hurt or resentment or guilt or shame. You have to forgive to receive. So I've made a program. I'm so freaking excited about it. It's called Master Your Inner Wealth. It has 6 modules, which are unpacking all of those inner belief systems we've talked about, plus more. Everybody's individual. You've been running these on repeat your whole life. When you do the activity of listing things out, you will start to see how cycles happen. We all have cycles. Let's stop the cycles. Let's start a new cycle. Let's close that chapter and start a new chapter of believing in ourselves, knowing we are worthy. You don't have to know the how of how the money or abundance is going to come in. That is the biggest biggest mistake that we make, is we get so stuck on the how it's all going to happen when we actually surrender and are able to within ourselves, not just like pretend that we're telling the universe that we surrender, but actually surrender. That is when crazy coolness comes into your life. So it comes with 6 modules. It's me live each week, which this is the only time I will be live in this program. I want you to get the biggest transformation out of this program. And so I will be just talking with you guys weekly on a Zoom call similar to this. Will be recorded if you want to look back at it. And this is the time to do it because I am so fully connected to wanting this to be the biggest transformation for you. I want you to see massive results out of this program. And I'll be adding as we go so that you can get the most out of the program. I want to see where your hangups are. I want to see what the toughest part for you is. I want us to have those conversations. And so it is $1,000 for 6 weeks or 3 payments of $400. As a fast acting bonus, which will expire on Tuesday, you get my 30 Days of Gratitude program. Because the other thing that's linked with manifestation and law of attraction is not being grateful. We can write down gratitude all we want every day, but if we're not getting into the feeling of it or the feeling of what we want to manifest, then those things, it doesn't match up. It's like we're trying to trick somebody. We're like playing peekaboo. Like I'm showing you my face, and this is what I'm telling you. I'm putting a smile on, even though there's like tears flowing inside or major anxiousness inside. It's kind of like how Canadians often do this of, hey, how are you? I'm fine. I'm good. Everything's great. I did that so much when I was at my rock bottom. I would go to the grocery store. Sometimes I would avoid the grocery store, but when I would go and I would run into people that I knew and they would like, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm good. I'm fine. I would never be like, actually, I just had a miscarriage and I'm a rotten mess and I feel horrible. And this morning I cried for 2 hours on my kitchen floor. It's like that. The real inside is what the important piece is, not the superficial, not the cosmetic, not the smile you plaster on your face. And so if this is for you, let me know. Email, DM, I'll send you a link. We'll get started. We start next week. The first module comes out next week. You can do the modules on your own. You can do this self-paced, but I really encourage you to dig in with me and allow me to help you the best that I possibly can, because I truly want everybody to have the wealth that I've experienced in the last while. It's pretty magical. It's really magical. And I want to share that with more people. I want more people to realize that they can do this for themselves too. Ooh, my face got big. So I am sending you lots of love. Let's do a deep breath in. The last thing I want to add for you is when we are committing to something. So I've had this happen with my last coach that I signed up with. I did not have the cash up front. to pay her. It was a very large sum of money. But until we commit, that money won't flow into our lives. And I know this already, so I wasn't worried about it, but it just reminded me of like years ago when I started these things that I would be so nervous about spending money because it's not like we're buying a tangible. But here's what I can tell you. Commit, the money will always come. All you have to figure out is the first payment and then watch the magic happen. It's always so cool. And please share it with me. And trust yourself that an investment on ourselves is actually the biggest investment and the biggest ROI we can ever have. Because if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be able to be bringing in 20K months. It's not how it would work, even though I had imagined it and dreamed for it for so long. But if I hadn't done the inner work that goes along with it, wouldn't have happened. Anyway, have the most beautiful day. Again, thank you so much for spending all of this time with me. I love you so much. Sending you so much love and wealth and abundance in your life.